Hello, this is David Heine, and we're in Amstelveen today at a very unusual museum, the Tassen Museum, which specializes and tells the story of history, actually, using handbags. With us today is the curator of that museum, SecrIvo. Sigrid, could you tell me a little of the history of this museum?
The collection is from my mother. She collected 25 years bags. In that time she was an antique dealer, and first she was dealing in the accessories who were going into the bags. And she saw a lot of bags, and she first bought some bags to show them with her antiques. And yes, she fell in love with the bags.
And through the years, you've managed to amass how many of these bags?
Our whole collection is about 1700, but in the museum you will see about 800, I think. And it shows the history of the bag from the 16th century until now, because we like to promote also the Dutch bag designers. So we have also some showcases with bags from the designers.
Now, these bags often reflect society at that time, I think. What is your oldest bag?
The oldest bag is from the 16th century. It's a very big, rough bag. It was worn on the girdle, and probably it's from a merchant who was traveling around, because it has 18 divisions. And when you were traveling around, you had a lot of areas with a lot of different coins, so you need all these 18 divisions. It's not like the euro who is coming now.
And so each of these new societal jumps changed the bags in some way, didn't it?
Yes. For example, the bags are following the fashion. When the fashion was very wide in the 17th and 18th century, the women had some pockets inside their clothes. They were put with ribbons around the waist, and that was very easy in that time, because the dresses were wide, and they were wearing it over the undergarment, and then the dress are going over it, and they had a split into the dress. But then as the fashion is changing and is getting very slim, so they need the bag to carry it in the hand. And what you also see is that in the 19th century you get the Industrial Revolution, and that has a big influence of the materials which are used for bags. Like we get bags with steel or iron, or from papier-mâché, and even the first bags from plastics are already from the end of the 19th century.
So each of these technological advances are also reflected in the bags themselves. Could you tell me what bags were used for in the early days?
We had bags special for marriages. Very nicely enabled or painted enable on copper. We had also bags with the text on it, "Remember the Poor," that were bags taken to the church and then giving money to the poor people or giving to the church. We had also bags very beautiful, embroidered with you can put coins into it, but you can also put nice smelling flowers in it. Because in that time, in the 17th century, they were not washing quite a lot like we are nowadays are washing ourselves. So to just to avoid these smells, even smells, they used bags to wear under their clothes. So bags had a lot of functions. You can also have bags to take the Bible in it, or to take documents into it, or for the ladies, nice bags for the handcraft, to put needlework in it. And you have also change with a hook on it, and they were putting it on the dresses. And on this change, they had some necessities, like also for the needlework, a container for symbols and a container for perfume, but also a pair of scissors, and the keys were hanging on this change. We call it nowadays a chatelaine, but in Dutch in the early times it was called een tuigje. So it's a very big variety of bags we have.
Now you also have a collection I've seen of other unusual kind of bags and carrying items. You have something for school children up there.
Yes, we have a small area which is showing a school, and there are hanging some wooden school bags. We see them already on paintings from Jan Steen in the 17th century, but these are from the 19th century. And children were wearing them with probably a girdle or a belt on it, and you could easily hang them on school, and they were taking their books and other things with them.
Now, a few innovations took place as they went along. One of the significant ones, of course, was the train came in, and transportation and travel became more prominent. Can you tell me how you reflect that here?
When the train is coming in the 19th century, you see that more people are traveling around, bigger groups, not only the really rich groups, and we need more luggage to take all the things with us. So you see that that leather gets very popular. For on the day, very small bags for only the train ticket, maybe even for the needlework in it. But you have also big luggages with for the hats and for the clothes. So the variety gets very big in that time.
Now, from time to time, you have special exhibits here at your museum. Right now, what is the special exhibit?
We have now exhibition about beaded bags. This is an exhibition who came from Germany, because in the 19th century you had an industry in the south of Germany. It was a very poor area around Schwäbisch Gmünd, and they started to make beaded bags, and they were knitted by the women. And some years ago they found the patterns of these bags in the museum in this city, and the strange thing is that there were Dutch text on it, like from love, uit liefde, and this kind of things. And nowadays we find these bags in Holland, especially in the area of the national Dutch customs. So in that time, in the 19th century, they were exported to Holland, and probably later on the ladies made themselves these knitted bags. And the lady who found these patterns in the museum, she made a very nice exhibition about it. And you can see this exhibition now in our museum. And this industry was very big about 1820, 1860, and then it get less in this area in the south of Germany. But then it started again in the beginning of this century, and especially in the 20s. And then all these bags were exported to America. And also that we are showing in our exhibition.
Now, in every period of time, there seems to be a new interest among the women in how they're living and how they're doing. Is this reflected by the bags? I mean, by that I mean oftentimes they have new activities that they've taken up. They've been allowed to come out of the house or go to work or do some other activity. Mm-hmm. Did the bags reflect the advance, or whatever we might call the march of women here, in some way that is discernible?
Yes, of course. You see on one hand that we get bigger bags for ladies, of course, to take the documents with you. You see it nowadays. The ladies like to have a big bag for the A4 to put the ordners and all the writing papers into it. That's because of the ladies are working nowadays much more than in earlier times it was the case for a lot of people. But you see also, for example, that in this century the ladies take more cosmetics with them. They see, of course, in the 20s and the 30s all the film stars who were using lipsticks and who even were putting it on the lips in the films. And we see then that you get a lot of evening bags with 1 or 2 or 3 divisions, also with cigarette compacts in it, because also that they are seeing on the film. And so you get in this century a very big difference between the bag for on the day and the bag for on the evening.
Now, in looking through the museum, I see that much of it reflects an affluent class. Was this always the case, where the bags that the women carried were from the very wealthy and elegant groups? And could you describe, well, in that very first room, we looked at some that might even be from the pretender to the crown during Mary Stuart, one of the Mary Stuarts.
Yes, of course, the very old ones from the 17th and 18th century, they are from the really Welsh people. For example, you called one of the bags, it was from the old pretender. That was one of from a king, or he wanted to be king in England, but he never got it because the English Parliament liked to have a Protestant king, and so his sister got it, and he was Catholic, and he got it. It was Mary Stuart who was married with our Willem, Stadhouder Willem, so in the second half of the 17th century. But also you can see it also on, for example, the materials they used. We have some very small bags with beads, but the beads are so small as a grain of sand. We call it in French sablé, van sable, grain of sand, and they are so fine you couldn't pass a needle through it. So there was used a hair as a needle. But this is so nice and elegant work that it will be a very costly, very expensive bag in that time. But you have also to see it in the light of that the beautiful bags are left nowadays, because everything what is used on the day, you use it every day, so it is gone. And it will be also the same in 200 years. The nice blouse you wear only for special occasions, it will also be nice in 10 or 20 years. And the blouse you wear every day is, you put it away in a moment, in some moment. So that's also the problem a little bit with the older times.
You have such a wealth of knowledge about bags. How do you do research on this? I've never seen a book written on it, and there probably are, but I haven't seen one. How do you do your research, and how do you find these things out?
Yes, I only have some few books. So I do a lot of research by going to archives. I'm also looking a lot of paintings, but it's very difficult paintings because when you like to make, when you are making a painting of you, you're not taking your bag on it. I mean, you put your nice dress on. It's the same when you have pictures nowadays. So that makes it very difficult. So archives, some books from earlier times, I do some research about it, diaries, this kind of things. Yeah.
And sometimes you were showing us one. You bought a whole collection of things in France of a certain kind of what is called in English a miser.
Mm-hmm.
Could you describe that a little bit?
Yes, it's in Holland. It's called a kousenbeurs, and it's probably from one shop or something, because all these bags and purses are not finished yet. So problem, somebody died maybe and they had to close the shop, and we could buy one box with all these bags into it. So it was a very delicious lot we could buy. And because of some of the bags you had to put a frame onto it. And the misers of kousenbeurs, that was a purse of the 19th century. It's already very old. It goes even back until the 16th century. But we have the most of the 19th century. And there's an opening in the middle of it. And you can put coins to one side and close it down with a ring. And you can put other coins on the other side, and you can close it with a ring. And it was a typical purse of the 19th century.
So I'd like to also ask you a little about the 20th century collection that you have here. Mm-hmm. I know you expressed a particular interest in the 30s. Maybe we could start there.
Yes, you have a lot of funny bags in that time. For example, we have one bag in the shape of a ship. It's made in 1934. In that time, the Normandy, it was a very luxurious cruise ship who was traveling from Le Havre to New York. And at the maiden trip, the ladies of the first class, they got a very beautiful bag in shape of the ship as a present. And later, yes, it's a period with a lot of strange things. But also later on, we have a very special bag from 1982 from Judith Lieber. She's an American designer, and she made a bag in shape of a cat. And she gave this bag also to Hillary Clinton. And then the bag got the name Socks, because that's the name of the cat of the family Clinton. And this bag looks like socks, like the cat.
I think you told me that some of the other purses actually achieved their name or fame by somebody using them.
Yes, like example, also the Grace Kelly bag. It's a bag already designed in the 30s by Hermès, a famous French mark. And when the star and Princess Grace Kelly is wearing this bag in the 50s, this bag get the name the Kelly bag. And still nowadays you can buy a real one, of course, by Hermès, but they make them also by other marks and yes, in a cheaper edition. But still, this shape is named the Kelly bag.
So Sigrid, maybe you could tell us now when the people could come to this unique museum and find out all about handbags.
We are open on Sunday from 1 until 5 o'clock, and on Monday from 10 until 4 o'clock, and on Tuesday until Thursday we are open on appointment.
Well, thank you very much. Just come out here to Amstelveen, have a look. Thank you, Sigrid.